There's this one idea that's at the very heart of modern healthcare, a framework they teach in just about every medical school. But what if I told you that this cornerstone idea is actually broken, that it's facing a deep conceptual crisis?
And that's really the big question we're going to dig into. Is the biopsychosocial model, or the BPS model for short, the key to truly understanding our health, or is it just a feel-good phrase that sounds nice but doesn't really mean anything? The debate here is surprisingly fierce.
So here's where it gets really weird. On one hand, you have people calling the BPS model the single overarching framework for all of healthcare. But on the other hand, you have critics just tearing it apart, calling it vague, useless, and even incoherent. How can one single idea be both of those things at the same time?
Yeah, and this quote from psychiatrist Nasir Ghami, man, it really hits hard. He says the model gives doctors permission to do everything, but no specific guidance to do anything. Basically, he's saying it's so broad it's more of a slogan than a real scientific tool.
So, you've got to be asking, how did we even get to this point? To figure this out, to resolve this paradox, we need to rewind a bit and understand where this crisis actually came from.
So let's go back to 1977. A guy named George Engel comes along with this really noble idea. He wanted to push back against the purely biomedical view, the idea that a disease is just a problem with your biology. Engel said, no, we have to look at the whole person, their life, their experiences, even the healthcare system they're stuck in.
But you have to understand, Engel was swimming against a huge current of scientific history. Ever since the 17th century, the big idea in science was that to really understand anything, you had to break it down to its smallest physical parts. All roads led to physics and chemistry. Engel's model was a direct challenge to that, and that's a fight that is still going on today. And this, right here, leads to the model's single biggest problem. Where's the proof? For decades, the critics have all pointed to the same thing, this glaring gap in the evidence that connects the psycho and social parts of the model to real biological changes.
Okay, so to be fair, it's not like there's zero evidence. I mean, there's a mountain of it, really. You've got landmark studies like the Whitehall studies, which showed this undeniable link between a person's social status and their risk of dying from heart disease. And the ACE study was huge. It showed exactly how trauma in childhood could lead to serious health problems decades down the road.
But, and this is the million-dollar question, the real sticking point, while we know these factors can lead to disease, there's just no solid proof that a psychosocial treatment, like therapy, can actually reverse a major physical illness, like advanced diabetes or heart disease once it's already there. This is that glaring gap the critics are always talking about.
Okay, so if the model has this huge gaping hole in it, is it just toast? Is it fundamentally broken? Well, maybe not. The latest thinking suggests the problem isn't the model itself, it's how we've all been thinking about it.
The big problem, it turns out, is that we've treated the BPS model like this vague, one-size-fits-all blanket statement. We just kind of wave our hands and say, oh, bio, psycho, and social factors are all important, without ever getting specific. And when you do that, yeah, it does become a useless slogan.
So what's the fix? Well, it's all about one word, specificity. The idea is there's no such thing as one BPS model. For example, a BPS model for type 2 diabetes in an older person living in poverty is going to look totally different from a model for depression in a teenager. The factors, social, psychological, biological, they're all different. The real scientific value is in those details, not in some general statement.
Okay, but that still leaves us with that big nagging question from before, right? If looking at the psycho and social stuff can't actually cure something like heart disease, then what's the point? Well, this is where you start to see the model's true power in the real world. And this is where it all clicks into place. Even if these factors don't reverse the disease, they are absolutely essential for managing it. Think about it for a second. Social factors, like poverty, determine if someone can even get to a doctor in the first place. Psychological factors, like depression, affect whether they'll actually take their meds. These things shape how we experience pain, our quality of life. I mean, in terms of human suffering and the actual cost to the system, this stuff is massive.
But to really make this stick, we need more than just specific models. We actually need a whole new way to think about how bio, psycho, and social even fit together.
The old way of thinking was kind of like those Russian nesting dolls, right? You have biology inside psychology, which is inside the social world, but that's just not right. It's misleading. The new way to see it is as a bunch of evolving systems. The biological, psychological, and social parts of you aren't separate layers. They are constantly talking to each other, shaping each other from the second you exist. You can't just pull them apart.
And this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. And honestly, it's the most mind-bending part of the whole argument. To really rescue the BPS model, you have to completely reframe what the science of health is even supposed to be doing.
Think about it like this. A physicist studying a falling rock doesn't care if the rock is healthy or sick. The science is totally value-free. But you just can't study a person like that. A biopsychosocial science, by its very nature, is normative. It's built on a value judgment. It's built on the idea that functioning well is better than functioning badly. Health isn't just a fact, it's a goal.
So when you pull it all together, the whole picture just flips. The biopsychosocial model, it's not some fluffy slogan. It's a framework for building very specific, dynamic, and yes, value-based models of health. And when you see it that way, its biggest so-called weaknesses actually become its greatest strengths. It's a more accurate and frankly more useful way of doing science for living beings.
And that really leaves us with one last thing to chew on. If we all agree that our health isn't just biology, that it's this incredibly complex mix of our minds, our bodies, and our worlds, then does it really make sense to keep trying to study it with a science that only wants to see the biology?